In the space year 2015, Generations figures have finally returned to shops over in good old England and Shireton, which means I've been able to get my hands on little Legends Bombshell here. So while everyone else has been rushing out to go and get a power glide, I have gone and got my hands on my favourite Insecticon, I have to say. Yeah, Bombshell cuts a pretty okay figure, but first thing, I just want to show you, because of course all the combinable stuff these days comes with a collector card, just like it's 2004, and you're getting Energon Tech Spec cards again, except there's nothing on the back. It's just a picture, but damn, what a picture that is. Just drink in for a moment how utterly brutal that art is, and really how little it actually looks like the toy. I couldn't Bombshell have looked as cool as this. Whatever, he's pretty darn nice anyway. The first thing you might be noticing is, well, he's rather shiny, isn't he? He's got all this gold on his chest and a nice shiny symbol and all of this purple, and that really does stand out when you plonk him next to his fellow Generations Legends Insecticon in Shrapnel here, and it's just like, bro, what's going on? It really does sort of show him up, because just look at that, it's all shine everywhere all the time, and Shrapnel is just like, yeah, I'm just flat purple and yellow, and he could do with a bit of luster to him. But yeah, there you go, there's that comparison at least, which is something which I assume a lot of people will want to see in a review like this. Yeah, overall these two feel like they're perfectly fine stood next to each other. There is ever so slightly a bit of a style change, because of course Shrapnel being Thrilling 30 just seems a bit more of a dynamic sort of look. He's got a few more angles to him and a bit more detail, and he just looks a bit cooler to me. Bombshell is, well, he's a bit more G1, he's a bit more rounded, he's a bit more flat. I mean, it's not to say he hasn't got detail, but he kind of looks a bit more plain. Now here's hoping we get a kickback to stand here, and I just hope it doesn't end up looking different again, because having three Insecticons all look mildly different and don't quite sort of gel as a team, it kind of annoys me, and to be honest, I would probably buy a box set of like all three in a unified colour scheme, but that's me being picky. So what does Bombshell bring to the party by himself? Well, he's, Bombshell, isn't he? He's got a pretty distinct design. I've always really liked the look of Bombshell. He's got that sinister, slotted faceplate like the front end of an old train, and piercing eyes, and he's got bug legs hanging off a few places, and he's got that weird thing on the back of his head. He's got a yellow chest, and it looks like his arms are coming out with some bug eyes, and he's got like guns on his knees. I'm not going to object to that. This guy certainly captures the old G1 design and kind of makes it look a little bit more dynamic, but I've got to say, it doesn't really feel like quite as cool an update as some of the figures that we've got so far in the recent generations. Articulation wise, he moves pretty good for a guy this size. He's got a waist, which is uncommon, definitely. Arms, ball joints there, ball joints at the elbows. Although, of course, his hands are quite nondescript, just sort of being holes and tops of fingers in these weird turbine pieces. I don't know, I guess you could say they're built-in weapons. We'll get onto that in a minute. He's got ball-jointed hips, and he's got knees, and he's actually got thigh swivels as well, which I don't really see why he'd need, but they're there, and that's cool. One thing which is a bit annoying is, well, these bug legs on the back of his legs. You can hear them sort of clashing against each other there. Yeah, it makes it really hard for him to put his legs together, because they stick out at odd angles, and it does sort of slightly improve things if you just sort of untuck them and don't transform them all the way, so he can sort of stand there in a bit of a better stance, just because there aren't legs getting all up in there. And while he's got quite big feet, as you can see, that does kind of make it a bit more difficult for him to stand up as well, because the feet are ever so slightly angled, and go and put him down. If you have sort of got all this stuff out of the way, it's less likely that he'll just sort of wobble about a bit. The only thing missing is something up here on his noodle, because it's completely static, and I can see why it would be for transformation, but it just feels like they could have put a joint in there, because all of this transforming stuff actually goes on kind of inside the back of his head, so he could have at least had a swivel in there, and I'm sure it wouldn't really have done too much in terms of structural integrity. So that's a bit of a bummer there, because of course his head is stuck in this alcove permanently. He just has to peer out from under it in a slightly malign fashion, which kind of takes away from the whole sort of edge of him being this kind of mad psycho warrior that's going to get into your head. So it's not impossible to get him into a good pose, but it does kind of take away from his character the fact that he can't be staring at you with those evil eyes. Because that's one of the things I've always quite liked about Bombshell. That kind of slightly creepy psychological warfare kind of thing. The fact the toy doesn't do a lot to evoke that kind of character is certainly a mark against it. Another mark against it would be it doesn't come with any guns or anything. I mean, at least old Bombshell would have had that gun that looks like the thing on the back of his head but isn't the thing on the back of his head. He's just completely weaponless, you know? He's got these sort of weird turbine things on his hands, which you could say are guns, but he does have 5mm hands, which is totally redeemable, which means you can kit him out with anything you can think of, really. Like, I don't know, an AK. So at least the fact you've got options to be able to add weapons to him is a nice thing, but of course when all the previous Legends figures at this same price would have come with a little tiny Micromaster guy that's also a gun, it does kind of feel like you're not getting quite the same value for money here, definitely. So how about making him a bug? First thing you're going to do is just pull this stuff round to cover his face, and that extends his beetle horn, is that what that is? I don't know. Spin him round at the waist like that. And then you can come underneath here and move his arms round. That's where these forearm bits, which are very incongruous tabs here, obviously slot together. Put his arms flat to the back there, and you can sort of move round these bug legs, which was something that the instructions really don't point out, and I thought, what, is mine broken or misassembled because the bug feet do that and they don't point the way they should? But no, they move, it's okay. Then you come around to his legs and extend these collections of, what are they, sauropodae, what are insect legs called? I don't know, insect legs. Stick the feet together, they sort of notch with a sliding motion rather than a straight push them together and they go click thing. And then they just fold up and notch into that space there in the back of his waist. And you've pretty much got a bug there, yes. Bombshell's bug mode is certainly where I think he performs a bit of a redeeming act upon himself, because just look at that, it's just a big bad Beetleborg, isn't it? It's a funny beetle, and you know, are these big yellow bits his eyes? I don't know. It looks just perfect robot beetlage here. It's got a horn there, it's got a shooty thing there, and it's got legs, and it's got shiny red bits and big shiny purple bits and like glowing turbine stuff, and guns out his back, which you can fold back if you don't like them there, but everyone knows beetles look better with guns sticking out their bums, so there you go. It's a Bombshell alt mode, isn't it? It's a purple and black quote-unquote rhinoceros beetle that looks like it should belong on the back of your head and sort of gnawing at your brain. Yep, 10 out of 10. As far as articulation goes in this mode, I suppose you can sort of move his legs in and out. They all do move a bit, so you can get him looking a bit more squished than normal, or standing up a bit more, because I suppose the legs do kind of support his weight, if you get it right. So yeah, I think Bombshell's bug mode is pretty a-okay here. As far as comparisons go, there he is with Shrapnel, and he's kind of a bit small in bug mode, I have to say. While in robot mode he does sort of come about a head taller than most other Legends guys. When he's in bug mode he does compact down quite a lot, and well, you can see there is rather a bit smaller than Shrapnel. One last thing to point out, I suppose, would be the fact that Combiner Wars is very much all about the combining, isn't it? And as far as pictorially revealed figures go, there's only actually 2 of them that actually are made to have a third mode and combine with a big old bloke like Superion. So, of course, when a new mould like Bombshell here comes along, people obviously assume that it's kind of made to combine as well, and I'm not really sure what to think about this, but I don't know, he's got some gun stuff on the back here. You could probably wangle a weird gun mode out of this bug, but I've got to say, I've not really tried, because it just really doesn't feel like there is anything else going on with this figure, other than being a bug and a robot. So, sorry, no official weapon modes here, but have a go making your own, I guess, if you like. His weird bum guns do fit in 5mm hands, so there's that. Combiner Wars Bombshell then. Definitely a worthy little addition to anyone's bug bot collection. And let's face it, if you're already buying Generations figures, why wouldn't you want to pick this guy up? So yeah, I've got to say, especially with the fact that you can walk into most shops and just pick one of these guys up, I have to recommend him. You've just got to have a bombshell. Everyone needs a little psycho bug in their house. Don't you agree?